Hello AOS families, my name is Mallory Sample, and in the 2019-2020 school year, I served as the math coordinator. I come to you today to give you more information about the math program here at AOS. As you all are very well aware of, we are unfortunately in the middle of a global pandemic. Given these circumstances, we as a school are very committed to making sure that your students receive the best education that they can this school year. With that being said, I'm here to give you more information about our math program and most specifically information about our new math curriculum, Math in Focus. Stay tuned. All right, I'm going to share with you all the agenda for today's informational session. So we're going to begin with speaking about the philosophy on mathematics at AOS. I'm going to share with you some pillars that we all have come up with as a team, as our belief system on math at AOS. Next, we're going to jump into some of the highlights of our current math program as far as the Jones Center, lower school, as well as the middle school. I'll talk briefly through the new math curriculum, and then we'll jump into how we will roll out the new math curriculum. Here you see a quote from Jo Boaler, who is a professor at Stanford University. She is a wonderful mathematician and has a lot of great things to share. So this quote is, "There are two versions of math in the lives of many Americans, the strange and boring subject that they encountered in classrooms, and an interesting set of ideas that is the math of the world and is curiously different and surprisingly engaging. Our task is to introduce the second version to today's students, get them excited about math, and prepare them for the future." So I don't know about you all, but I know that when I experienced math as a student, I unfortunately experienced it as the first part of this quote and unfortunately not the second part. So math at AOS is definitely leaning towards that second part. We want our students to be highly engaged and truly see themselves as mathematicians. Here you see our first philosophy on math at AOS. That is that our students should have a growth mindset when it comes to their ability in math. So there's two different beliefs about how we engage with math. We either have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. So Carol Dweck, who does a lot of research on grit, I'm sure some of you all have heard about her, believes that a fixed mindset makes us feel like the way that we approach math and our abilities in math are stuck, whereas a growth mindset means that we are constantly growing as mathematicians and we can get better. So we're not necessarily a math person or not a math person, we are growing mathematicians, and that's how we want all of our students to see themselves. Even if they don't necessarily like math or it's not their favorite subject, we want them to have a belief that they can and will get better at math. Next philosophy on math here at AOS is that we believe students should learn math as carefully constructed learning experiences that promote exploration and discovery. The way in which our students are exposed to new information and how we allow them to intake that information can definitely play a role in how they understand something and then how they retain the information itself. Allowing students to have time exploring a problem and making sense of that problem builds self-directed learners and gives students opportunities to collaborate and communicate their ideas effectively. These are the type of critical thinking skills that will help our students to be competitive learners. So what you're seeing here is a problem from the Math in Focus first grade book in which students are learning about making number bonds. So they're learning and exploring on how can I create the number 7? Is it a 6 and a 1 or a 5 and a 2? And they're going to come up with that first before we explicitly teach them. This next problem over here is from the middle school. It comes from the 6th grade book, and students are really learning about rates and unit rates. And instead of just explicitly telling them what that means, we want them to think about how they may already know that based on something they've experienced in their life. Here it's talking about words per minute, which would mean the unit rate, but we're not telling them that. We want them to engage and really think through that on their own first. Next philosophy on math at AOS is that students should be exposed to multiple modalities when approaching any one problem. The focus is now conceptual understanding and not rote memorization of procedure. So I really like this image here. It shows different ways to one path, right? So As teachers, we're responsible for creating and nurturing learners. All of our students are very different. They come from different backgrounds, and what makes sense to one student may not make sense to another. So it's critical to expose them to different ways of solving one problem. So as an example, I think about, let's say I'm subtracting 12 minus 7. One way I could do that is start at 12 and take away 7. Or I could start at 7 and count up until I get to 12. So both of those different processes will actually give us the same answer. I'm going to get to 5 no matter what. I'm going to get that light bulb moment. But really allowing students to discover what works best for their brain is going to give them that confidence that we want them to have in math. Our last philosophy on math at AOS is that math curriculum and strategies for solving math problems should be aligned and uniform as students progress from grade to grade. So some of you all may have heard of this before as vertical alignment. Research in the best math teaching practices show that having uniformity in how we expose our students to problems and methods to approaching these problems across grade levels will help students retain information and make connections over time. We're so excited that as a feature of our new math curriculum, there are many uniform strategies that your students will learn. For example, a bar model can be used to show the foundations of addition and subtraction, and then later used to find percent increase as they get into the middle school. So teaching them a specific strategy like the bar model and exposing the students to it consistently over time is going to give them an approach that they can count on, and will have uniformity over time. So here you see some problems that might be given to students in the lower school, and they of course are using bar models. This is a 2nd grade problem, and then course 2 is actually 7th grade, and you see a percent markup problem here, and all of these are using that bar model method. Next, I'm going to share some really wonderful things that are happening across the school with math at AOS. So starting with the Jones Center, this year there's been a focus on STEM education. Students have had the opportunity to hear parents complete and do experiments for both math and science, which is really exciting, and it's been so fun for our students. Sparking curiosity and creativity in math at this age is so important. In addition to parent visitors, students have had the opportunity to explore various math manipulatives, as you can see here in the pictures, during their center time. For example, students have used beads to sort in different groups, which helps them with patterning. You can see here, been able to count with various objects such as bears, beads, that kind of thing, and even seen the basics of a 10 frame. So all of this exploration and exposure are the focus at this age level. We want them to build a solid foundation of basic math concepts for the years to come. So we've been doing a great job of that this year, and you can see that from the smiles on our students' faces here. All right, so looking into the lower school, you see Ms. Chapman here doing what we call a number talk with her students. So across many lower school classrooms, students and teachers are engaging in what we call number talks. They are rich conversations in which students share out loud their own mental math strategies. In this practice, students aren't just looking for an answer. They are trying to find as many different ways to solve the problem as they can. The key is a de-emphasis on speed and the correct answer, and an added emphasis on the process and the communication between each other. So over time, students learn that there are more efficient strategies to attack any one problem. And this is happening all the way across the lower school from kinder through 4th grade. And I've actually had the opportunity to experience that in the classrooms with some of our students, and it's so much fun to see those light bulbs go off. All right, here you see some of our middle school classrooms. This is Miss Lady Ann Loving's 6th grade class. In this classroom, students are encouraged to share their own strategies in approaching any given problem. For example, when Miss Loving started teaching proportions, she determined which students had attempted a problem in varying ways. So she looked, of course, at their paper and talked with students. And then she had those students share out their strategies and prove to them that they all are getting at the same answer, even with a different, specific strategy, using a ratio, using a tape diagram, a double number line, those kinds of tools. She focused her class's attention on how proportions can be represented with those different tools and models. This helps her students to have a deeper level of conceptual understanding of proportions, and more importantly, proportional reasoning, of course. So getting our students to see that you can, try different approaches to any one problem is a very, very important emphasis for our students moving forward. And we're so excited that that's happened this year in the middle school. All right, kind of looking forward to what math will look like at AOS in the future. So what we did this year is we chose a new math curriculum. As a school, we are, of course, forever growing, developing, changing, and researching to be the best that we can be. We did realize that students could benefit from a new curriculum that would lead our teachers and them, of course, along a different path to success. Together, we created a study group with myself in it, experienced teachers across the lower and middle school, and we made some decisions about new curriculum. So as a team, the first thing we did was we created a comprehensive list of the things that we wanted to see in that new curriculum, along with some non-negotiables. Our philosophies on math at AOS were definitely, the guide for making those decisions. So as an example, we wanted something that would mend closely with the mission statement of our school. We wanted to see how we can work to not only build the minds of our students, but also prepare their hearts to face challenges and lead them into the future. So that's what this image is here. And then once we had done that, we looked at a whole bunch of different curricula and ordered, of course, books and dove deep into what we had found. After that, we narrowed down our decision to just a few different curricula. We went on some school visits to see the programs in action. That was really, really fun and exciting. When we were there, we spoke with teachers, administrators, and students, of course, to see what things were working and what wasn't working. We got some great advice on how we should implement, different programs, and also just some great best practices of working with our students. And then lastly, once we had narrowed down our decision to just a couple of different curricula, we actually went to go implement the different books with our students. So we had some sample lessons that were completed in both lower and middle school, just to see how our students would react and how successful that they could be. So we, because of this process, we feel very confident that the curriculum will not only meet our own needs as a school, but additionally, meet state and national standards. So we're very excited about that. All right, so here it is. As Dr. Fragomeni shared with you all at the State of the School, our new math program is called Math in Focus. It is a very strong curriculum built on a framework by the Singapore Ministry of Education. It draws on years of leading international research and effective teaching and learning of math. So not only are we looking at, how Singapore does math, but like adding in great practices of, how students can engage with the math, like I shared before. Right, so jumping into our new math curriculum, I'm so excited to share that Math in Focus is our new math curriculum for AOS. I know Dr. Fragomeni shared that with you all at the State of the School, and I want to talk a little bit more about what Math in Focus is. It is definitely a strong curriculum built on a framework by the Singapore Ministry of Education. They draw on years of leading international research and effective teaching and learning of math. Year after year, Singapore has been one of the top countries when it comes to student performance in math, which gives us a really strong confidence that it will be great for our students and build a strong math foundation for them. Math in Focus presents math in a very coherent sequence of topics. It has a nice flow and vertical alignment, and it'll give our students ample time to master foundational topics. This means that less repetition of material is required across grade levels. So that means that more new learning is going to be happening at each grade level, which is very, very exciting. Math in Focus lends itself to students who will advance with concepts even faster, so differing from other curricula or other school districts. Problem solving is definitely emphasized at all grade levels. Students are given time to explore a problem, make sense of that problem before being explicitly taught a strategy or a way to approach a problem. This helps students develop their problem solving abilities over time. And then lastly, number sense is an area in which our students have shown a need for growth. We've seen that in their ERB testing and other standardized tests. But we know that Math in Focus teaches students a strong understanding of the composition and decomposition of numbers in general. And there's, of course, a high emphasis on the mastery of basic facts by the end of second grade. So all of that is really exciting and gives us even more confidence that Math in Focus is going to be a great choice for AOS. So here you can see that students have decomposed the number 4 in various ways. And then lastly, here you see this think problem, which is asking our students to really consider a ratio before the teacher is going to be explicitly teaching those concepts, which is wonderful and will give our students a great sense of pride and confidence. The concrete pictorial abstract model is used throughout the Math in Focus curriculum, so that's what we call the CPA model. It is a means to exposing students to a particular problem type. Students are asked to use manipulatives to first tackle a problem. So that's what you see here. These are unifix cubes. Those are manipulatives that our students can actually put their hands on. Later, they're taught a strategy to create a visual or a pictorial representation of what they're understanding. So right here, they have a bar model, and that would be considered the pictorial piece. And then lastly, this translates into the abstract, which is here, it's actually an equation, 8 plus 7 equals 15, and that's what they use to represent this particular problem type. Teaching students an equation first, if I were to give them 8 plus 7 equals 15, gives them little meaning to what they're seeing in the equation and puts an emphasis on the procedure, and that's exactly what we want to move away from. We want them to have a good understanding of what is 8 plus 7. This particular problem is from a 2nd grade Math in Focus book, and then over here we actually see a 7th grade pre-algebra problem where their first, this would actually be a balance in their classroom. That would be the concrete. Then they could draw an image with counters for the pictorial. And then lastly, we see the abstract where they're asked to solve this algebraic equation. But understanding this problem as having to balance will give students a really good understanding of what they're actually doing. So this CPA model is a great way to introduce concepts to our students. So next I want to talk about how Math in Focus will be brought to AOS. In working with other schools, Singapore math trainers, leaders, and others, it was highly recommended to not begin with Math in Focus curriculum across the entire school all at once. It was mentioned that doing so could be overwhelming for our students and teachers due to the high academic demands and nature of the program. So for AOS, it makes sense for our school to implement a 2-year rollout. Above here, you can see the grade levels in which will be affected in the 2021 school year, and then those that will be affected in the 21-22 school year. So here we are, our first year, kinder 1st and 2nd, as well as 5th, 6th, and 7th. And then the next school year, 3rd, 4th, and 8th grade. There's going to be a large emphasis on supporting and training our teachers in the Math in Focus curriculum so that they can be successful. And we, of course, need them to be able to support your students in the best way possible. So we feel very confident that this is the best approach to bringing Math in Focus to AOS. So looking forward, as we begin this new endeavor, we understand that there's going to be some excitement and, of course, a little bit of apprehension. We want you to know that we're here to support you, your students, your family as a whole, however we can. We want to be able to get any questions that you all have about how math is going to move forward at AOS through a Google survey. So we will be sending that out along with this video. Please submit any questions, concerns, feedback that you have through that Google form. We will be responding probably in various ways. So you may receive an email from myself or another staff member answering your specific question. There may be, a follow-up email or something that's more general. So you're answering your questions can look different ways. But all that to say that I'm so excited about what math is going to look like at AOS and our new math curriculum, Math in Focus. Thank you so much for tuning in with me, and I hope that you and your families stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.